Let's go.
AKPK Financial Education and Wellbeing Research Center, FEWRC, conducted a survey among young athletes and unearthed several key findings. Let's start with the most crucial part of financial management, which is savings. The evidence suggests that 1 in 3 young athletes did not save. It is worrying since it surpasses the Malaysian average of 18%. This goes to show that the tales of financial struggle come from even one of the most disciplined jobs in the world. There are numerous justifications why savings money is so important. One of them is to help cushion the blow of financial emergencies and unexpected expenses. Which brings me to the next point, the ability of our young athletes to cope with financial shocks. The FEWRC survey reveals that 65% of young athletes did not have 1,000 ringgit of emergency fund. And again, this percentage is higher as compared to the average Malaysian consumer, where only 44% of them were unable to raise 1 ringgit Malaysia. What are these statistics trying to tell us? Well, in a nutshell, savings behavior determines the level of financial resilience required to cope with financial shocks. What's about retirement? Are our young athletes ready to retire? Or at least start thinking about it? The survey shows that 6 out of 10 young athletes admitted that they were not ready for retirement. Although athletes have valuable skills and experiences that could benefit any workplace, many struggle with the career transition. Life after sports is crucial, and young athletes need to prepare. Low savings lead to low financial resilience. Now, when you couple this with the low readiness for retirement, the states of well-being of our young athletes is in jeopardy. The survey reveals that slightly more than half of our young athletes experienced varying degrees of financial stress. Given the lack of preparation for career transition, we can only expect that those who are struggling to manage their money will be exposed to even more financial stress in the future. Together with us, three guests who are experts in their respective fields and have a common aspiration in ensuring the wellness of our young athletes. We have well-known ex-Malaysian athletes, a professional bowler, Shalin Zuki, please. Encik Sohardi, Deputy Director General Strategic National Sports Council Malaysia. And we have Yang Bahagia Datuk Nurul Arifin, President of Yayasan Kebajikan Atlet Malaysia, YAKIB. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the Insights. We are gentlemen. Let's start with the ladies first.
Yes, please.
All right. So, Shalin, first of all, I would like to congratulate, your very high achievement in sports. Won more than 40 gold medals in various international games, and it's absolutely amazing. Very impressive. I lost count about the other medals, but we have heard about the statistics of our research found that there is quite a number of issues with regard to financial management and financial resilience of our young athletes. I think you are the best persons to share, as being an athlete, how you validate the findings that we have just now. Maybe you can share your experience being an athlete's perspective.
Well, yes. First of all, thank you for the invitation today. I think it is a very fantastic thing that you guys did, because I think it's before this everybody was speculating on why, the reason, and how to combat this problem. But now we have actually the statistics to actually prove what everyone was thinking before. So for me, yes, I think it's the findings. Some are rather surprising, Some are not, based on just my experience being an athlete for over 30 years for Malaysia. So I think most of the findings, the results from the findings, are pretty accurate. Especially like you said just now, 65% of athletes, right, have trouble to actually have like produce 1,000 ringgit. Yeah. So unfortunately, that does happen. Probably because in the beginning, we are not really, we don't have a lot of awareness towards financial resilience, financial planning. So I think now is a good time for us to actually start and educate athletes, whether the elite athletes or the younger athletes, so that they can make better decisions in the future. Yeah.
All right. So you evaluating that, somehow the result is quite consistent with what is actually real happening.
Yes, it is quite consistent.
All right. So based on your experience in sports 30 years back, is it any difference 30 years back and now? What do you think?
Well, before, because most of the athletes, the senior athletes before me, they were not full-time athletes, I would say. So they were working or attached to banks, to companies. So at that time, probably it wasn't a big issue because they were getting like financial security elsewhere. But now, in this age and time, most athletes need to be full time to be able to succeed at the elite level, whether Olympic level, Asian level, world level. So that's why right now I would say it's somewhat not as stable as before, because before they know that, okay, whatever it is, they still have a solid permanent job at the bank or at somewhere else. But right now they don't, so they depend solely on the allowance that's given to them. Yeah.
All right. That's very interesting. But I have another question, trying to understand why this behavior is actually, among our young athletes. But let me go to Encik Suhardi from National Sports Council Malaysia.
Yeah.
Encik Suhardi is very instrumental in in the strategic decision of National Sports Council, and have a vast amount of experience in managing athletes, bring our athletes to the international levels, games and whatnot. So based on your perspective, sitting at the strategic management of National Sports Council, what is your observation about the behavior that we have found, and also Shalin also shared some views and experience? Your perspective.
Okay, thank you, Chemat. First of all, I would like to thank AKPK for inviting us to participate in this arena. Thank you, Cik Azadin and Puan Fazlina, for being with us today. It shows that it's a very good collaboration between AKPK and MSN to make sure that we have a very good survey, and to make sure that this survey benefits the nation. I was involved with sports when those days, when Dato' Mauta Dahari still playing football.
Oh,
yeah,
that's very long.
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah, I was a dietitian at the National Sports Institute at that particular moment. I think even Dato' Jamal Nasir is my good friend. Yeah, he's the Olympian in 1980 Olympics. Yeah, but due to the war, we didn't participate at the Olympic at that particular moment. If we look at those days, for example, there is a vast difference. Those days when the athletes play for the nation, they didn't expect anything from the government. Even they are paid maybe 50 ringgit, a month, just to support the training. But nowadays, as Shalin said, there's a paradigm shift. Changes happen due to the some of the development in the country. But before we discuss about that, after 31 years of being involved in sports, I managed to actually see that the athletes themselves are very special. There are 3 criteria which make them more special. They are very punctual. They are very, very accurate. They are very sensitive on numbers, especially during the World Cup. Yeah, one simple mistake, they will say, okay, it's not that point, it's this mark. Yeah?
Mhm.
Yeah, they are very passionate
Mhm.
and they eat a lot. You know, they eat a lot. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes 2 or 3 plates. It depends on the types of sports they are in. Yeah. So if we compare this and we look at the ecosystem of sports, the projection of the ecosystem for the next 10 years, for example, in China alone, the revenues for sport industry will meet up to 600 billion. Back in 2011, when we did a study with the Department of Statistics, the ecosystem and the revenues for sport in Malaysia is about, I think, 13 billion.
Oh, okay.
Now, in 2022, we did another study, and it shows that in terms of the sports industry, the value of the economic contribution to the nation have gone up to 30.5 billion.
Oh,
So that's a
2.3
tremendous
that's very
increase.
significant.
Yeah, that's very significant. So what we did is that we look at the sport industry and the ecosystem in 3 main pillars. There's infrastructure, services, and products. And athletes falls under services. So in terms of services, we can see that there is a gradient in terms of how the athletes perceive their allowance that being paid by the government, NSE in per se. So in terms of the NSE's stand, we divide the athletes into 3 categories: working athletes, student athletes, and full-time athletes.
Mhm.
What Shalin meant just now is full-time athletes, where you have to be there all the times. Yeah. So I agree with you that 1 out of 3 is having problems to actually save 1,000 ringgit a month. Yeah. Unfortunately, that is the amount of money that we pay for the athletes. For some athletes, yeah, it differs based on their experience, their achievement, their performance, and all that. I agree with the findings, but at the same time, we have to interpret in such a way that it represents the real things that really happen now. For example, athletes, which is under our program at the age of 13, being given 800 to 1,000 ringgit a month. Of course, we are saying, oh, it's below the poverty line of the Malaysian, household income. But again, if you look at the amount of money that we give to the athletes, 1,000 ringgit a month. That one is exclude other expenses, yeah, such as food, accommodation, training, and transport. For food alone, about 65 ringgit per day. So times by 30, you get nearly more than 1,005. Then MSN's calculate food, transport allowance, minus the tuitions, medicals, bill, all that. Per athletes as young as 13 years of age, we actually spend about 4,650 a month.
Wow.
If you plus that 4,650 per month, plus that 1,000, actually one athlete at the age of 13 managed to secure a fund of about 5,650 a month. That is far more, actually more than the B40 age group, the category. So these are the intangible things that we have to define in terms of the interpretation of the results. But at the same time, MSN feel that we need to take care of the athletes. We need to make sure that when they receive that amount of money, even though it's considered very low in terms of their category, but for us, with AKPK, we need to make sure that we educate them on the financial arrangement. I'm not worried about the allowance, Cik Man, but I'm more worried about the incentive.
Yeah.
I'll come back later.
Yes, we will need to talk more about that. I think you mentioned also about the financial education, which
Yeah.
I think it's also important for them because they got the money and all the food,
Yeah.
accommodation all taken care of.
Yes,
and
yes.
what they need to do with the money
Yeah.
need to be
Yes.
educated.
Yes, yes.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
It's a very fresh information
Yeah,
for us
yeah,
here.
yeah.
Now, Dato Nurul, so as you can see, our survey shows that more than half of our young athletes say that they are not ready for retirement. And so, as the president of YAKIT, maybe you would like to give some fresh information to us. What is actually in the actual scenario, Malaysian athletes, do they really not ready for retirement? What happened to those athletes who have retired? Maybe you would like to share your stories.
Okay. Anyway, thanks for today's invitation today. As Yaqib, as established in 2007, and 2008, we only had 85 members registered with Yaqib. Today, we have 2,906 members registered with Yaqib. And the statistics shows, we have checked, 80% of the athletes, 80% is under B40. So with 10% is M40 and T20 is around another 10%.
That represent all the athletes, or
No, all the
retired
ex-athletes, retired athletes. And then we also find out after the retirement, as Shalin, I agree with Shalin, because those days, athletes like myself, we are working, and then we go for training in the evening. So we have a steady income. The income is not that big, but for that year, maybe in the 80s, it's just nice for us to be in KL. So we go for training, as what our friend said here. We get allowance, maybe $1, $2 for us to go up with a minibus to Kampong Pandan and come back. Yeah? But we are happy because we want to represent the country. We just want to wear the JC every year. We get its different tracksuit, different T-shirt, and it's all. But come back, are they ready after retirement? I believe the young athletes until today they're not ready because they are comfortable in what they are earning now. You see, we have para athlete who were in the scheme getting allowance for 9 years. He was getting average of $9,000 a month. Don't mention names, but after the nine years, he retired. He only had less than 10,000 in his savings. If you total 22,000, maybe if you finish up 50%, you still have $500,000 in his account. So that's one we have to educate them on financial management and give them a lot of awareness. What's happening to the ex-athlete now suffering? They cannot come with like 1,000, or maybe they cannot go for simple operation. They have to come to Yaqib, and we have to give all the GL, which we do. But unfortunate, we see all some went to Olympics, some also are world champions and etc. But unfortunately, when they come to finance, they struggle. You see, the older TV, I can break up in few era when from the 50s to 70s, 70s to 80s, and 80s come to 1998. I will stop 1998 because by 1998, when the 1998 Commonwealth Games, then we started to have allowance, we started to have facilities, we started to give them perks and this so and so. But these athletes, they start enjoying it. When they start enjoying the money, they want to finish up as though they have to finish up their money in that month. And then the following month, they start fresh again. So that's how this problem arises. We have good footballers earning 20 to 30,000 a month in their Malaysian Cup, some other leagues, and also playing for Malaysia at that time. End of the day, they actually want to sell their golden boots. This all happens, you know. And then we have athletes who also went to Olympics, Paralympics. Lately, they are actually in front of pavilions selling tissue. The different athletes, they have the different story, different commitment, and they also have their own ambition towards to earn the earnings.
Yeah, I mean, you know, of course, very sad to know that those stories. However, I believe that is actually represent a certain population, certain sample of the total population.
Yes, right.
But looking at the statistics, when we say that the 33% representing 1 in 3 young athletes, I think we need to take care of this one. This is quite important for us to look into. Very interesting discussion, but let's take a break, quick break, and we will come back. Stay tuned. We'll come back.
Let's go. Let's go.
Welcome back to the Insights brought to you by AKPK Financial Education and Wellbeing Research Center, FEWRC. And today we are talking about financial resilience. Are our young athletes ready? We had a very insightful discussion and managed to reveal some real issues faced by some of our athletes. And let's move on to dive deeper into the topic. But before that, let me show some of the statistics from our survey, where 4 out of 10 of young athletes reported having a poor financial behavior. Like the rest of us, they also tend to make poor money decisions. Let's look at the level of financial behavior among our young athletes. Compared to Malaysian working adults, young athletes demonstrated poorer financial behavior. Now, join me as we dive deeper into financial behavior of our young athletes. Let's look at financial behavior has 3 dimensions, namely spending behavior, savings behavior, and debt management behavior. So out of these 3 dimensions, the survey found that our young athletes scored low on their savings and debt management behavior. So very interesting. I wanted to continue with Dato.
Thanks.
When you say that, those days when people actually do sports because they're passionate in sports,
Yeah.
they are not expecting any. And now it's a bit different culture, What about, based on the findings that we can see that when we grow older, we can get more wisdom. So how can you see the difference when people growing older? Is it any significance contributing to the wisdom of how do they manage the money? Dato'.
Actually, this behavior, I think so. National Sports Council or YAKIP, I think so. We have to need more other agencies to involve on this matter. We also need the NSA, the National Sports Association, also to involve the coaches to involve on this behavior, because when the age catch up, they have commitments. Automatically, they must have commitment because maybe they got married. At least get married and they still represent Malaysia. They get married. Maybe they have other commitments. They buy properties or car. So they have to do some savings for them to pay their loans. If you take the younger ones, they have parents at home. So whatever money that they get actually is like a pocket money for them. Those days we get pocket money only 20 cents. Now they get more than 10 or 20 ringgit a day. So what I'm saying is that they know they're secure. Anything they just have to call back home, and then the money can be transferred nowadays.
Yes.
So that's the 2 different things. But coming back to the behavior or how to do savings, and then the earlier is the athlete, when they come into the sports, they must start thinking of transition period. They have to start thinking of the retirement. Like we are going to a job, we're going to the bank. What is our plan? We have to be officer or manager or maybe a director of the bank. That's how these sports personnel have to think. They have to think what will happen after 5 years, 3 years, because the period they have in sports is very short. If you take on gymnastics, they start as early as 9, 10, 13, and then they'll finish up by maybe 16, 17 years old. Come to other sports, maybe maximum they can go up to 30. Maybe Charlene is very lucky lah. She's still playing. Because like we take football, we take athletics, people getting faster soon. So I believe the transition period must be given to the athlete, must educate them on financial management, and to also give them this career pathway. They also must give them some skill, TVET or education lifelong to them, so that they can actually sustain during their career life.
I think your points, the keyword of the transition, it's very important for us to prepare them.
Yeah.
the transition period is very important. We need to prepare
Yeah.
so that they can retire
Yes, right.
comfortably.
Comfortably, yes.
And also they have to be prepared to get income after they retire from the sport,
Yes,
because
right.
they retire early,
Yeah.
50 plus. Actually, it's very lucky. So they have to, like, for example, the retirement age of nation is actually 55, and they can go to 60. So from 35 years old to 60, we still have quite many of
Yes,
years
right.
to go through. Right? It's very interesting. I moved to Shalin. When you talk about the issues just now, you validate the issues that we found in the research, right? But now the insights would like to dig deeper. Why that is happening?
Well, I mean, compared to before, like the athletes before and in this age, I think the athletes now are very lucky
Mhm.
because we have different agencies helping them and giving them awareness from at an early age.
Mhm.
Because I think from your findings, you found that like those who were 15 and above in their 30s, the
Yes.
athletes in their 30s were able to manage their finances a lot better, probably because
Correct.
from experience, education, and so on,
Yeah.
compared to those 15 and below.
Mhm.
So right now, I think agencies like AKPK, like Yake, and MSN itself, because in MSN we have the MACE department. It was established in 2017. But at that time, it was only one of the units there. But now we are a secretariat, and I'm part of the secretariat since
Okay.
beginning of this year. So we at MSN have actually seen all the difficulties from past athletes, from Yakib and so on. So we are learning from our mistakes, and we are trying to educate the athletes now to make better choices.
I see.
That's why those who are 15 and below are exposed to more, they can make better choices for the future when they retire, whenever that is. But yeah, it's true, because when you're 15, you don't really think about 10 years, down the line. You are like, what you were probably thinking was like, okay, how many tournaments I have this year,
I see.
and so on. So that's why the spending habits is a lot different, I think, compared to normal working Malaysians and so on. But also because they are also exposed to, like Cik Suhari said, when they win competitions like World Championship and so on, they have incentives. So for someone who's 15, if they win a world title, world junior title, they probably get about 40,000.
Wow.
So for someone who's 15, when you get 40,000, you're like, yeah, you
Wow.
can just buy anything you want.
True.
So they don't really think about, oh, should I save like half for the future and so on. So they depend a lot on their support system to tell them what to do, to advise them what to do. So right now, like MACE has become like one of their support system that they can go back and ask, what type of things do I need to prepare for when I retire, besides their parents, their coaches, and their siblings and so on. So I think right now in this day of and age, I think the younger athletes are very lucky compared to before. When I was like 15, I didn't know, I didn't plan. The only thing I planned was, okay, in 10 years time, I want to become a world champion. But you don't really, it's more sports based, not really like your future based. But luckily for me, I started planning because I knew I was going to retire someday. Everybody retires someday. So I started planning for my retirement like 20 years before I retired. So I started doing small things
I see.
to prepare myself for retirement.
Just curious, that moment when you won a gold medal and you receive, I believe, some
Probably your parents will be like the first line of information and person that you would refer to. I would think so. But right now, I mean, they have a lot of information, whether it's on social media, TikTok. There's a lot of good information and bad information, but they have to make sure they filter the information and use the right one for their future.
Interesting. Going to Iswadi.
Okay.
Many research have proven that the theory of the behavior could be improved by giving knowledge.
Okay.
So maybe perhaps you would like to share. I believe MSN have carried out some of the programs to ensure the financial well-being, in particular, of
Yeah.
young athletes. So
Yeah.
maybe you would like to share some of the initiatives that has been done or still being carried out by MSN.
Okay, thank you. Basically, I would like to thank KPK because the research give us
My
Different
pleasure. Our
perspective.
pleasure. Thank you.
different perspective on the approach of our programs. The program is not perfect. We need to review certain part of the programs, but it gives us some benchmarking on what we should do looking forward. If you look at the epistemological part of the research and the ontological part of that research, you will find out that some of the findings uh, give us different views on how the athletes should proceed with their careers. Some of our approach may have to be reviewed in terms of the target groups, for example. Uh, those days, one of our challenges is to manage success, like what Sheldon said, 40,000 just for a 13 or 14 years old kids suddenly have 40,000, and those the parents that influence them, even though they are training under us, but the boss is still the parents. So maybe we should educate the parents too, especially with it. There are certain strata of families that need to be educated in terms of the financial management of the money. I would say that the athletes are very lucky. You know why, Cheman? Because when we, during the MCO, the Movement Control Order, as Dato' Nurul mentioned, they are very complacent because when majority of the Malaysians are out of jobs, they are still training at MSN. Bukit Jalil have a very good life, very good food, allowance some more, and transportation. We get tuition teachers to come and give them tuitions and all that. So they are not affected. But that complacency makes us worry a little bit because we want them to know that after their peak prime time, peaking age, they should be able to manage their life, managing the success, managing the incentive. 40,000 a month is a lot, but it can finish in one day. If they didn't really know how to manage it.
Yeah.
So we have a very good program with AKPK, with EPF, with Perkeso, to assist us to make sure that we educate our athletes, not only them, but I think after this, maybe the parents, so that the parents will have a better influence on the athletes rather than taking advantage on the athletes.
Yeah.
I remember one of the athletes who won a world championship those days. The parents which neglect him for so many years suddenly came back to see him.
Oh.
Yeah. This the attractive of ringgit. So these are the things that need to be looking at, and I think we need to review it to make sure that our target groups is the right target groups. If the approach is right, the target group is right, then we will be able to make sure that our intervention is right. For example, like what Datuk said, at the age of our AMD, our Academy Mokhtar Dahari players, at the age of 17, 18 years of age, they are receiving about 18,000 a month if they are representing certain rich clubs in Malaysia or maybe outside. So at the age of 17 or 18, for that particular sports, it's a cultural shock for them. It's a cultural shock for the family and all the relatives. If you cannot manage that kind of money monthly and they cannot manage it properly, we are worried because we are worried that one day after 20 years, when they are no more at their peaking age, when they start losing at their high performance level, so maybe they will come back to us, come back to the government, come back to Dato and ask for more money. So our target is to to teach them how to catch fish rather than give them more fish here now and they don't know how to survive.
Yeah.
So these are the few interventions that we have to look at, and thank you very much for the research because it gave us some insights on how we should move forward. I think together with other agencies, I think we will be able to come up with a better proposition
Yeah.
and proposal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. The discussion is getting more interesting, but you know, we cannot hold the viewers. I can see that some viewers has already posted some questions for us to respond, but I think maybe we can take a quick break and we will come back.
Let's go.
Ibu, nanti Hani kalau balik busy ni.
Oh, grand your birthday you, Hani.
Thank you so much for coming. Selfie!
Next time kita pergi Bali.
#holiday, #BFF. Nak beli yang ni dah. Nanti aku bayarlah.
Kau buat pinjaman untuk birthday party kau tahun lepas?
Time susah ni semua tak boleh harap.
Selamat ulang tahun ke-24 anak ibu.
Ibu. Tolong Ani, Ibu.
Let's go.
Welcome back to the insights brought to you by AKPK Financial Education and Wellbeing Research Center, FEWRC. We are talking about financial resilience of our young athletes. And thank you for those who have posted your questions. Now, I think it's time for us to entertain some of the questions, and maybe perhaps I can see some of the questions from Ikwan. As a fan of yours, you have fans, actually. Yeah.
Yay.
So you are evergreen as a celebrity. So since early 90s, I remember you had received a sponsorship from the US bowling brand name Brunswick in the mid 90s. Wow. How well you used the sponsorship for your career at that time. And Shalin, I think I watched your video playing with Tommy Jones, US bowler, very professional and well known worldwide.
Yeah.
So yeah, so how well you use the sponsorship?
Well,
for your career at that time?
okay. Thank you, Ikwan, for the question. Well, actually, when I was one of the few athletes in Malaysia and internationally that was sponsored by at that moment in time Brunswick, now Storm. But for my sport at that moment in time, there was no monetary money involved in the sponsorship, so it's mostly kind. So it wasn't really hard to manage because they would give me bowling balls, and those bowling balls would help
And
me
volleyball
win.
is expensive.
Yeah, at that time it was like 400-500 ringgit. It's considered expensive, but now it's even more expensive.
Yeah.
Now it's like 1,000 for one ball. So at that moment in time, they didn't give me monetary direct money in terms of, okay, if you become my ambassador and so on, you get, we'll pay you like, a large sum amount of money for being a spokesperson for this and that. It wasn't like that for me. Nowadays, it's a lot different, but mostly bowling ball companies do not pay the athletes for being spokesperson for them because usually they will give you the equipment for you to perform with their equipment. Yeah.
I see.
So it's kind of like a different perspective compared to like being a spokesperson for a particular brand or an ambassador for a particular brand. Yeah.
I think you have a quite good support system where you have your parents manage yourself, manage the money. You have you gotten advice at a particular time. So I think support system also important
Yes,
for
very
athletes
important.
to manage their money. And we also have questions from Haris. How should sports associations play their role in helping MSN to manage athletes? Just already the question got MSN there. So
Wow.
you want to respond?
Thank you very much. Okay, the first important thing is that, as I mentioned earlier, there must be a paradigm shift on the NSS, the National Sports Association, in terms of governing the bodies and the athletes. Often, when the athletes were approached by certain sponsors, sometimes there are some redundant in terms of sponsorship package with the NSAs. I would suggest the NSAs to look at this and try to discuss with the athlete. Bodybuilding, for example, weightlifting. Sometimes there are redundancy in terms of the sponsorship package. As a governing body, the NSA should be open-minded enough to make sure that the athletes are actually enrolled under their body. So they should take care of the athletes rather than prohibit the athletes from taking into another agreement with another sponsors. This can be done actually. There are a lot of provision under the NSS constitution that can allow that. Unfortunately, because of the certain bureaucracy, this cannot be done. What happened is if this is not being done, the athletes, which have prospect potential sponsors, will start losing sponsors. Sometimes we don't have to look at sponsorship in terms of individual sponsorship. Whatever that comes, sponsorship into sports, we should leverage on that. We should welcome that, even though it will go to another sports body, not MSN, maybe MTBC, maybe FAM or BAM. We are very grateful if the money go to sports rather than go to some other non-sport activities. So I think that NSA should change their mindset to make sure that they are open for discussion with their affiliates and the athletes to make sure that the sponsorship can go direct to the athletes. This is what have been done in the US, for example. They are allowed to do that. So by doing this, the more money that go into sports, the more money circulates into the sports, it will bring up the sport industry to the next level. Yeah, I think that can be done. I hope I answer your
Very
questions.
insightful. Very insightful.
Thank you. Thank you.
When you talk about financial education just now, the round before this,
Yeah.
you mentioned about the financial education. We need to give knowledge to them.
Yeah.
You know, every one of us, we have 24 hours in a day.
Yep.
Do you think that when athletes focusing more on the competitions, practicing, then the hour that they have a limitation to, to learn, to know more about how to manage money and whatnot. So what do you think about that?
I agree with you that even though it's limited in terms of because the athletes they train sometimes 2 sessions, 3 sessions a day.
They're
They
very
start
busy.
early and finish early. They have to go to sleep before 11. It's quite regimented if they live in MSNs because they need a recovery process. Okay, but looking at the time, I think most of the athletes can manage the time, but we have to educate them. Yeah, because we try to make sure that the athletes understand the Maslow theory of hierarchy of needs. There are 5 pillars. That pillar is what Dato just mentioned just now: food, a place to stay, friendships, and all that. But I hope that these athletes can go up to the first pillar, which is self-exercisation.
Yeah.
Which means they don't look at accessories. They don't look at expensive handphones, expensive cars, expensive tire. They look at a quality life, investment, whatever that they receive in terms of incentive should be reinvest. And this is something that I think AKPK can do their part. Sorry if I'm wrong, But most people believe that when you go to AKPK, you have trouble with your financial management. But these are the things that we have to change, you know.
Yeah.
If let's say athletes receive 1 million, why don't we suggest that athletes who receive 1 million to go to AKPK to manage that 1 million? How to make sure that they invest that 1 million in a very constructive way? Yeah, so that will change the athlete's attitude.
Yeah.
At the same time, that will also change the way people look at AKPK. For example, you know, then people will come to AKPK not only to manage their debts, but to manage their wealth.
Yeah.
I think you have the experts in that.
Yes.
You know how to do. So these are things that we don't have the expertise on these things, you know. So these are the things that. Thank you again for the research. Without that research, we won't know, you know, we won't realize that the importance of managing success, managing the incentive and all that. For example, our para athletes, when they go for Olympics, Tokyo Olympics, when they won a gold medal, they get 1 million, for example. You know? At the age of 19, 20, 1 million is a lot of money, you know. So
Huge money.
yeah. I think the athletes should go to AKPK and ask, please tell us how to make sure that this 1 million doesn't go somewhere else. You know?
I can imagine. the back end.
So these are the things that I think
Yeah.
future collaboration need to be done
Yeah,
between both agencies to make
Yeah.
sure that you know, we can leverage this as
Yeah.
part of our program in the future.
I would like to concur and echo your opinion.
Yeah.
And you're spot on, Cik Swati.
Yeah.
We are not agency that only taking care of those
Yeah.
who have difficulties in managing their debts.
Yeah.
We also have financial education, financial advisory.
Yeah.
For those who have a lot of money, you also can come
Yeah.
to AKPK and we can advise on how to manage money.
Yes.
Maybe we can have one more question. Hello, I am Muhammad Firdaus, graduates from Sports Science in UiTM. UiTM di hatiku. So I have a question. Does YAKIP have any schemes for ex-athletes? So for Dato'.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Firdaus. Yeah, definitely we have 12 schemes in YAKIP. Actually, before that, this is a chain reaction. If you don't take care of the ex-athlete, the parents will discourage the younger generation to go in sports. That one we have to always think about it. The 12th scheme we have, one of that we have. We also provide around 25,000 per year for medical equipments. Some example, pacemaker, maybe medicine that they can't get in the general hospital, they can get in pharmacy. We pay for it. We also have around 20,000 for critical illness. We'll pay the athletes. 10,000 for non-critical. And we also pay the 3,000 ringgit for the funeral expenses. We pay for their first marriage.
I see.
Second marriage we won't pay lah. And we have we have 12 that we are taking care of them. That one is our responsible. Where do we get the funding is another story. But this one will make sure we'll give it to all the ex-athletes.
I think it's very interesting information, this, because we might not know what YAKIP's role. I think I would like to commend the noble effort that YAKIP is doing, you know, taking care of our athletes' welfare. We will go to the final round before you conclude the session, but let's go to the short break, and we will right back.
Let's go.
Kerana aku memilih untuk tidak lari, kerana aku memilih untuk mengurusnya, kini aku bebas menikmati kehidupan.
Let's go.
Thank you very much for tuning in. The Insights brought to you by AKPK Financial Education and Wellbeing Research Center. We are now at the final rounds of discussion. We are we are having a good time, very insightful discussion. But maybe before we conclude, maybe perhaps Shalin, your final say, what is your aspiration? What do you want to see in our young athletes to be prepared for better financial resilience?
Okay. Thank you. Well, I hope young athletes will embrace the programs that's done by all the different agencies, so that they make better financial investments, better financial decisions in the future, because there are a lot of activities and a lot of programs done. I think as a former athlete, we did not have that when I was younger. So they have a lot of form of different medias and so on. So I think they should at least take like probably an hour out of their time a day to read about something, or there's a lot of like social media things you can just search on YouTube and so on. So books to read and so on.
Yeah.
So I hope that they will do that. Probably for some an hour is not a lot, but when you accumulate that across 10 years, 20 years, it turns out to be quite a large number. So even though it's slowly, it's fine. Just read something and educate yourself, because I think education is key. And I think slowly, when we are able to change that perspective in their life, then they will be able to make better choices in the
You
future.
mentioned that young athletes need to explore knowledge, get full leverage on what they have in social media.
Yeah.
People always say that cash is king. So can we change to knowledge is king?
Knowledge is always king.
Thank you very
Knowledge
much.
is always king.
Knowledge is always
Yes.
king. Yeah, very interesting. Cheers, Wardi,
Yeah.
from MSN perspective. So what is your hope?
Okay, thank you. MSN is looking at a lot of initiative under the MACE, which is headed by Shalin. There are 11 programs under MACE, such as the sports entrepreneurships for the athletes to prepare themselves, so that once they finish off their cycle in sports, they can be an entrepreneur. And it's not that straightforward. They have to go through a lot of training with MEDAC. Together with MEDAC, we have a lot of research and programs together with other agencies. We have athletes track program, which will help the athletes in order to gain more revenues while training. So this is another initiative which is very unique, and there are a lot of take-ups, and I think it is successfully done. And there are a lot of awareness programs under MACE to prepare the athletes, especially the young athletes, to make sure that after the peaking age, they will be able to live a normal life, and in fact to be a very successful person. At the same time, I would like to thank AKPK. I hope that we have a better collaboration in the future. We have brainstorming of ideas on how to
Absolutely.
move forward
Absolutely.
in terms of helping us
Yeah.
to make sure that our athletes have a better education in terms of financial resilience and management of their funds and wealth. Thank you again, and
Thank
I
you very
hope we'll meet again.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Very, very interesting, and glad to know that you have that MACE to look into what are the career path after the sports years when they retire. Dato' Nurul, in particular on the retirement part.
Okay, on the retirement part, you see, we have international, what they call it, sportsmen. We have those days Mike Tyson. He had 300 million, and he went bankrupt.
Oh,
And then we
yeah.
have another athlete, Serena
Yeah.
Williams. She made a lot of money. She put in investment, and she's making more money than before. That's why I believe in this sports arena. We have a lot of pathways. You can be a referee, you can be coaches, you can be a broadcaster. We have Sharon Lee, we have Charlene, we have Dr. Minarwan broadcasting for sports and everything. There's a lot of agency actually will back up them if they have the knowledge. So before they go to this retirement, they should also learn how to be a broadcaster. They must know how to do the public speaking. That's why in Yaqib, we are not only we're taking care of the welfare, now also we're going on their career pathway, giving them entrepreneurship, we're giving them skill, we're getting funds from outside, from Khazanah, to give them all the skills so that one day they will actually be the what you call role model for other athletes to be very successful. I also hope during their in NSC or NSA, they must do education. Education is very important. Education is everything. You see, if you have properties, you can sell the next day and you can finish out the money, but not education. Education, that's why they call it education lifelong. If they're not good in education, they're not excel in education, then we have to also give them in skill to be a businesswoman or businessman, entrepreneurship skill for them to carry on in their life. I give you an example like George Foreman. He have lost everything, and then what happens that he start doing a product, and the society around him in US actually has supported him for that particular product. This also can happen in Malaysia. You can do your own branding. Charlene can have her own branding on maybe some food product and this, and it actually will sell because the name, the famous that she have, people recognize her. This is how you promote yourself as a sportsman. No point in selling your sportsman and we don't know how to what they call promote ourselves. That is the way we are thinking, Yaqib. We want like what he said. We want to give them the rod to fish. We can't give them fish every day. They will get bored also.
So Charlene, I think Dato also agree that knowledge is always king. And one of the things that we also noted that you're giving a rod rather than fish, so that they can fish all the time until they retire. So thank you very much, Dato' Nur Arifin, President of Yaqib, Encik Soehardi, Deputy Director General of MSN, and we have our celebrity athletes, Charlene Zulkifli. But before we conclude, I would like to give some insights from today's discussion. Maybe perhaps what we can do is, for young athletes, time is the essence. Shorter career spans means they must develop sophisticated financial behavior even earlier than average Malaysian working adults who have a longer journey to build their financial resilience. Second is that we want to give as a takeaways, there is a need to redesign financial education. And education is a long-term in nature, but the clock is ticking. Given athletes' short career span, how do we fast-track the impact financial education without compromising its effectiveness? And last but not least, is their life after sports. Career transition is crucial to ensure financial sustainability and ultimately financial resilience. Self-development through upskilling and reskilling programs could focus on entrepreneurship, digital skills, communication, and administration, for examples. I would like to thank our guest again, Dato' Nurul Arifin of Yaqib, Encik Soehardi of MSN, and our Charlene Zulkifli, national bowler. Till next time, this has been The Insights, where the theory meets practice. Thank you very much. Till we meet again, and goodbye.
Let's go.